Dr.Council, fellow classmates, my name is Shane Lingerfeld, and today we'll be talking about public transportation and its means for reducing carbon emissions and climate change. What is public transportation? Well, it's exactly as it sounds. It's a means of transportation provided by the country, state, or city, provided for the public in order to transport from one area to the other. And typically with public transportation, it is usually low cost and highly emission saving. According to EEA, the European Environment Agency, in 2019, the emissions for road transportation was 70% in the air. Wow, 60% of that 70% alone were cars or single passenger vehicles. Why this is important is because these single passenger vehicles are producing these mass amounts of emissions in comparison towards these large vehicles that carry many more passengers. According to the IEA, a full bus can actually replace up to 50 cars on the road alone. Now think, how many buses do you see a day versus how many cars? Now imagine if we could just take that number and cut it in half of the amount of cars and make that buses. It would be astronomical. While that may seem a little unrealistic, as you think to yourself, well, how could I get on a bus if I live this far away, or my home has 2 or 3 vehicles? What are we going to do with those? Well, according to the APTA, which is the American Public Transportation Association, a 2-car household's carbon footprint alone is 50% of their vehicles in comparison to their natural gas and electricity and other utilities used around the home. So why it's important to go green? A study in Kansas City, as you can see by Ride KC from APTA, was reducing down to 1-car household can actually cut the emissions by 30%, so more than half. And this is astronomical, because now if every home were to cut by 30%, think of the lack of emissions that we could produce single-handedly. Also, a study done by APTA, which is the American Public Transportation Association, and in partner with Mohawk University, the amount of vehicles, or the amount of public services that are switching to electric vehicles or renewable energy vehicles. This is important to know, because some electric vehicles work off of a Victorian grid, which still produce massive amounts of carbon emissions, and this is why we're slowly gearing towards more of a renewable energy. As you can see for this graph, walking alone or riding a bike or even a Tesla Model S emits 0 carbon dioxide into the air. In comparison to an average Victorian car or the car you drive today, produces 243 grams per kilometer. Think about how many kilometers or miles you might drive in a day. Lastly, as a study done in Texas A&M by their Transportation Institution, urban congestion alone accounts for 19% of carbon emissions. So, next time you go to the grocery store or go for a ride, think about getting in a bus and be one less car on the road. Thank you.